creepy TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
You know how they say history is his story and that the victor writes the story? Have you thought about that element in regards to the Great Wall of China? Listen to this, because this changes everything.
Hold on. You're telling me the Great Wall of China isn't just long. It's impossible.
Exactly. People say it's 13,000 miles, but they don't really process what that means. That's 4 times the entire U.S. stretched coast to coast, plus another 1,000 miles, and it was started in 220 BC, before Jesus, before most empires even existed. That's the point.
But how does an ancient civilization build something that massive without modern machines?
It took over 1,000 years. No empire commits that kind of time unless they're terrified of something. And here's the part nobody talks about. The steep defensive side, the battlements, they're facing China, not the outside.
So the wall wasn't built to keep people out.
It was built to keep something in, and some researchers even claim it may not be Chinese at all, but a leftover structure from the old Tartarian Empire. If that's true, then you have to ask yourself, what were they trying to contain?
Okay, so you can fact check this for yourself through imaging and compassing. The defensive side of the Great Wall of China is pointed to inside of China. So to me, that either means they're trying to keep something in, okay, or that it was an empire on the outside of China that built the wall to defend against the inside of China. Or maybe, so that would indicate actually, it wasn't likely Chinese people who lived in China who built this wall with defensive systems and battlements and armaments pointed into China. It's just a bit strange. Now, all I'm saying is we've been lied to about so much. We get lied to in the news about what happened last week. Is it such a stretch, woo, to think we've been lied to about something that happened thousands of years ago? I don't think so. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
The Chinese zodiac has a dragon.
What should we do in the immediate aftermath of a tick bite? So Stephen Buhner, he's a guy who I looked up to. He was like the world's best herbalist. I mean, this guy was just a legend in the Lyme community. In his book, he discusses the acute tick bite scenario. And what you want to do is you want to get a clay. So you can get a green clay. This is typically going to be like a bentonite clay. Apply it as a paste, mix it with a little water. The most important thing is you want to do astragalus. Astragalus is just an incredible immune tonic. Take 3 grams of astragalus for a month. After the month, you cut it down to 1 gram. So 3 grams for a month. That ramps up the immune system, gets all your guys fighting the Lyme or whatever you got bit with. And then after the 3 gram for a month, you go down to 1 gram long term.
There you go, folks.
Back in 1995, that's over 25 years ago, Dr. Gilbert was talking about the science behind graphene oxide nanotechnology long before Elon Musk was talking about it, warning this was the way they was going to insert the graphene nano through self-replicating, self-assembling liquid crystals into the circuits of our body and the neurological circuits of our brain. Check this out.
In an old video from 1995, a theology professor named Pierre Gilbert warned of mandatory vaccines that would turn recipients into zombies. He speaks in French, so I will translate. In the biological destruction, there are the organized tempests on the magnetic fields. What will follow is the contamination of the bloodstreams of mankind, creating intentional infections. This will be enforced via laws that will make vaccination mandatory. And these vaccines will make possible to control people. The vaccines will have liquid crystals that will become posted in the brain cells, which will become micro receivers of electromagnetic fields, where waves of very low frequencies will be sent. And through these low frequency waves, people will be unable to think. You'll be turned into a zombie. Don't think of this as a hypothesis. This has been done. Think of Rwanda. But what he said 26 years ago certainly rings true.
26 years ago, that's wild.
Today. In 2016, The Guardian published Genetically engineered magnetoprotein remotely controls brain and behavior. Here we can see zebrafish larvae that have been injected with magneto being manipulated with magnetic fields. In March of 2020, Defense One published an article on how hydrogel biosensors are ready to be injected into people's bodies, funded by DARPA and Bill Gates. If you search magnetic nanoparticles, you will find several articles and videos explaining the so-called benefits of this invasive technology that can control parts of the human body via external frequencies. Livestock needs to be branded and tracked. And sadly, there seems to be millions of people eagerly lining up to be state property.
I don't consent.
Genghis Khan was a mass rapist with 16 million descendants. But Genghis Khan was a man who went to war to rescue his wife, Porta, when she was kidnapped. And he stayed with her until the day he died. Genghis Khan slaughtered 40 million people, every woman and child and man. But Genghis Khan outlawed the kidnapping and selling of women and children, made it illegal across his entire empire. Genghis Khan was uniquely uncivilized barbarian. But Genghis Khan surrounded himself with the greatest minds from every civilization he encountered. So he didn't destroy knowledge, he literally was collecting it. Genghis Khan had unique barbarism the world had never seen. But Genghis Khan created the first decimal military system that every modern army on earth still uses today. He invented signal communications across battlefields and meritocracy in military ranks. And these are the same person, same life and same man. But Genghis Khan is what happens when the people who lost write the history books.
And no way he would have been able to be so successful if he was just a simple barbarian.
Guys, why are we not talking about this? Check this out.
Can literally, proven now experimentally in the test tube, dissolve 84% of the total microclock count in 2 hours. And so this is the strongest evidence we have that this can actually get rid of amyloids. And we had no clue really what could before. We didn't know if these enzymes could do it, but now we do know that yes. And now this was not in vivo, this was not in an animal, but regardless, we do know it can happen. We do know when you ingest nattokinase orally, it does reach systemic circulation and will likely also exert effects on the circulating amyloids. And so what needs to happen next is human testing, human trials to assess the reduction in amyloid burden and spike burden from the nattokinase. We have to remember one more thing. This nattokinase presents dual action activity where it also has been shown to degrade the spike protein or frame shifted proteins themselves, which are the very triggers that induce the amyloids in the first place. So you're knocking out the trigger and the pathogenic outcome. So this is very, very, very promising. And also it is very safe.
This is one of the only supplements I take on a daily basis because of its incredible ability to keep your blood clean. And everyone knows that the cleaner your blood is, the longer you will live, and it will significantly reduce your chances of heart attack and stroke, which are the top killers in this day and age. If you want info on this incredible blood cleaner, just comment enzyme and I
don't think.
And you take it as precautionary or only if you have issues?
Plants understand what plants are supposed to look like because this is a parrot flower, which looks like a flying parrot. They're native to Southeast Asia. Hot lips look like giant red lips.
What?
They provide many health benefits to their native communities, like helping with side effects from snake bites. Doll's eyes are giving many creepy eyeballs on a stick. Extremely toxic. Do not place in mouth. Snapdragon seed pods look like tiny skulls. May or may not ward off evil if planted around your home. White egret flower, another flying bird flower. It's a bog orchid from Asia. Endangered in the wild, but easy to grow. Intact catasetum are found in Mexico.
It looks like Eskimo.
Central America, and Cuba. Grim Reaper vibes, or perhaps a hooded monk. Doesn't look like an orchid, but it is in fact an orchid. And dancing girls from the rainforests of East Africa. Finally, these guys, I cannot say their names, but it rhymes with fondom. They are from South Africa, and inside these tubes, you will find downward facing hairs that trap insects. So clearly evolution has been feeling creative. Thank you.
They can literally call in a UFO.
What?
Crazy stuff. Well, this man, his name was Prophet Yahweh.
That name. Red flag, red flag.
But he claims, I've been able to call in these UFOs pretty much my entire life. The news thought it would just be funny to go out there and basically make him look like a fool.
Sure.
The news anchor goes out there and he's like, all right, yeah, let's see it. And he's just like sitting there. And I think he just does like a prayer or something. And they're like, oh, is it working? And he goes, yes, right there. And they pull the camera up. There's a literal orb in the sky.
I think I've seen this video.
And the news anchor's like, okay,
long time ago.
and like gets like worried. And then the guy's like, look, another one. Sure enough, another one.
What?
And so this man on video proved that he could call in whatever these things were. I don't think they're very good. It makes me question, because I was in early high school. I'm like, God, I just like want to just see like a sign from you. Sure enough, this star just starts moving. Okay, if you're listening to me, make it disappear. Gone.
Whoa.
And I asked one more time, the same thing happened. Demons and stuff, they will use signs to deceive. Then you read about in scripture where like Satan is the prince of the air. Of course he's going to make a deception in the sky. So looking back, I'm like, no, I don't know. That was so good. I think it's pretty clear in scripture to not ask for signs.
Signs in the Bible are actually kind of split. It's interesting. Because like Gideon asked for 2 signs and gets them both.
Yeah.
There's an explicit Jesus comment of like, stop asking for signs. A little exhausting when you're like in the flesh with these people and they're constantly like, do one of your tricks.
A lot of people think that demons are fallen angels. They're not. Demons are the disembodied spirits of formerly living Nephilim or angel human hybrids. They were never meant to exist in the first place. They're an abomination. They are the union of spirit and flesh. So since God never intended for them to exist in the first place, when you kill the body of one of those things, the spirit goes out and becomes a wandering evil spirit that we call demons. I believe that's in 1 Enoch chapter 15, if I remember the address right. It tells you point blank that's what demons are.
One line I'd push back on, he says God never intended them, but nothing exists that God didn't permit. Not the hybrids, not the demons, not the test you're in right now. Islam and Christianity agree completely. Not a sparrow falls, not a leaf drops without his permission. The dark isn't a loophole in God's plan. It runs inside it, on a leash.
And since they used to have a body, they desire to have a body again. So that's why they possessed bodies. That's why when Yeshua came up on the maniac that had the legion in him, and they said, well, if you're going to cast us out, put us in the pigs. Which also helps to explain why, an 8-year-old girl could become possessed by a demon and throw like 3, 6 foot, 200-pound men off of her like it's nothing. Well, she might have the spirit inside of her of a 18-foot giant.
What?
The Arabs invade Spain in 711, and they're there until 1492. The initial wave of Arabs who invaded Spain were Syrians and Yemenis. They were Romans and Carthaginians, Germans and Celts and Arabs mixed together. They spoke a language that was maybe 50% Arabic, 50% Latin. They dressed like Arabs, they ate like Arabs, but they believed they were Europeans, and they didn't want to be Arabs. So they began to de-Arabize themselves on purpose. At one point, they actually sat down with a dictionary and tried to pull out the Arabic words. It's hilarious because there's still Arabic words. In Arabic, pillow is mukhad. In Spanish, it's almohad. Like really? And the place names, Guadalquivir, Wadi al-Kabir. Guadalupe, Wadi al-Lub. Lub was the Arab attempt to say lupus. Lupus is wolf. So Guadalupe was Arabic and Latin mixed to say Valley of the Wolf.
Obsession star Indy Navarrete was pictured posing with an Illyrian Sika. But what is the history of the weapon, and how has it remained culturally relevant over the centuries? The Sika was a curved blade that emerged in the Balkans around the 4th century, amongst the Illyrians, Thracians, and Dacians. Its curvature made it a good choice for bypassing an enemy shield, but its relatively small size made it easy to conceal as well. Balkan Sikae were often highly decorated, featuring imagery of eagles, snakes, and other symbols, which may have served a variety of cultural functions, such as denoting membership and imbibing the blade with religious significance and mystical power. As Rome expanded into the region, the Sika was adopted as the armament of the Thrakes, meaning Thracian, gladiator type, whose smaller shield and curved weapon made the class an entertaining matchup against more heavily armed foes. This is likely a lesson first learned by the Roman troops tasked with conquering the area. As late as the Roman conquest of Dacia, the Dacian king Decebalus took his own life with a Sika. In Roman society, the Sika spread beyond the arena on account of its stealthy properties. It became popular in the criminal underworld, and most notably was the primary weapon of the aptly named Sicarii, Jewish assassins who opposed Roman influence in Judea. They used the blade to great effect, killing prominent Romans and any Jews who collaborated with Roman authorities. It may have been the first true organized assassination force. The Sicarii were heavily involved in the Roman-Jewish wars, and most infamously were said by the historian Josephus to have committed mass suicide during the siege of Masada, when it became evident the Romans would capture the citadel, though there is debate on how exactly the event unfolded. While the Sicarii were vanquished with Rome's victory, their memory was enough for the term Sicarius to come to mean murderer, which entered Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian as Sicario, meaning a salaried or contracted killer, and is now mostly associated with cartel hitmen in Latin America. As for the blade itself, Sika is the root word for the English word sickle, the humble agricultural implement. Sika is hypothesized to come from the Proto-Indo-European root ki, meaning to sharpen, through Proto-Albanian sika. Alternatively, it could derive from the Pi root sek, meaning to cut. That brings the sika full circle. It is an ancient weapon, deriving from even older terms, whose memory has shaped language to this day, drawing links across cultures from the Balkans to the Americas. Thank you, Indy, for bringing attention to such an underrated historical artifact.
Does this picture in a book that's over 100 years old? The Cape Scott story. Show a time traveler? Watch this and decide for yourself, Fishkies.
The photo was taken more than 100 years ago in Canada and portrays a group of men, women, and children sitting on the side of a hill of some sorts. But eagle-eyed observers have noticed the photo stands out for a very particular reason: what appears to be a man straight out of the 20th century. The photo was discovered in Lester Ray Peterson's 1974 book The Great Cape Scott Story, a tale of the Canadian region's history. What has fascinated those who came across this photo is how out of place the surfer man, as some have called him, appears to be. He is wearing a very baggy t-shirt and shorts, sporting a modern windswept haircut, and is clearly at odds with everyone else around him. Looking closer at the people around, the man to his left appears to be utterly stunned by his presence. Further to the right, a woman also appears to be pointing her hand at the supposed time traveler, leading many to speculate the man was out of place and out of his time. In fact, it almost looks as though he jumped right into the scene as the photo was taken. Has a mysterious traveler proved the impossible in Journey Through Time?
That picture was taken in 1917. He sure doesn't look like somebody from 1917. Time traveler or something else? You decide, Booshkies. Shabadoo!
This is how Alzheimer's disease became a thing. In 1901, a woman was experiencing a form of delirium, and her husband thought she was crazy and she needed to be in a psych ward. So he took her to the hospital. The neurologist, his name was Alois Alzheimer, he took this patient. What they did was they donated her brain, and he found these plaques. And when he scanned it and investigated it, he found that it was amyloid. This is where it gets so interesting and really frustrating. In 2003, French neuroscientist Sylvain Lesner, he found amyloid beta 56, that is the sole cause of Alzheimer's disease. Immediately, he got a $7 million grant, and then the NIH put $300 million per year towards formulating pharmaceutical interventions to attack this. And it wasn't until 2022 that they found that it was fraudulent.
The lost city of Atlantis was a black civilization. The lost city connection often refers to the Minoan port town of Akrotiri on Santorini, destroyed by the Thera volcano and its association with the legend of Atlantis. This is my next source, The Last World's Mysteries. And I quote, "Could this extraordinary fresco be a picture of the Atlanteans? It shows ships on an expedition to North Africa, and according to legends, the Atlanteans were great seafarers. The destination is indicated by the people and animals in the painting. The fresco was uncovered in the house at Akrotiri, the ancient city found buried under volcanic debris on Santorini in 1967. Look at the people on the ships and look at the people on the island. These are black people. These are not Caucasian. This is my next source, the image of the black in the Western art. The Minoans were referred to as black, swarthy, and Negro. Pause and read. This is a black captain of the Minoan people. Pause and read. Now, it's very important to remember that the Minoans of Japhetic origin weren't the only black people on this island. You also had the Phoenicians of Shemitic origin who are black people on this island as well. And it all started with two kings, the king of Tyre, Hiram, and the king of Judea, Solomon. Let me show you that King Solomon was black. This is my next source, Tever Icons. Look at him. He is obviously black. This is my next source, Carthage. And I quote, mentions can also be made of this context, of the wealth in gold, silver, ivory, monkeys, and peacocks brought back by Solomon on the boats which his friend Hiram, king of Tyre, had obligingly permitted him to attach to the Phoenician fleet. This is my next source, the arising history of Africa. Now look at the ships. These are Phoenician ships. Now look at the port. Look at the people on the port. They're all black. And remember, Solomon's people, Israel, were called a sea empire. And these were the same people that went and lived amongst the Minoans, making them the Atlanteans of the lost city of Atlantis.
You guys, Europe is melting right now with reports of multiple countries hitting record-breaking days in the triple digits, including France, Germany, Netherlands. None of this is normal. Now, historically, Europe is nowhere near prepared for this kind of heat, and there's reports in France where people are jumping into rivers, drowning, fighting in stores for fans. It's chaos. And the death toll just in France alone has reached 1,000 people, with 109 people dying in just 24 hours. Now, we have to look at pattern recognition and globally what's happening to the weather, because something doesn't add up. Now, we can't forget what just happened in Venezuela. They just had the most deadly earthquake they've ever seen, with over 1,400 people dead and over 68,000 people missing. Now, keep in mind, that earthquake happened within 24 hours within the Ring of Fire, where we had Japan, Philippines, New Guinea, Venezuela with the 2 earthquakes, even an earthquake in Northern California. But can anybody tell me why there's a tectonic discharger patent? Weird. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no smart city plan for Caracas, right? Right? Well, would you look at that? Yeah. Posted by the World Economic Forum themselves. Caracas 2030 is in play. States here that the young population in our country needs to actively engage in activities aimed at building a better future so they can overcome the prevailing negative perception and contribute to the development of the nation. And mind you, the target group is from 20 to 35, an age group that is assimilated into technology already, aka a smart city. I mean, it is kind of odd timing that we captured Maduro earlier this year, we get the oil, now we have these earthquakes, and now there's a smart city plan. Convenient. But that's not all, because back home in America, why are salvage yards across America burning up for no reason? And this is the most notable one, where a salvage yard in Idaho lost 9,000 cars wiped out due to a wildfire. Now, why are salvage yards important? Well, they have a bunch of old car parts where you can fix old cars, but if they're all wiped out, you can't do that anymore. And this comes into play, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, where cars starting in 2027 have AI systems that surveil you. But the weird part, also in Idaho, we have winter storms with up to 12 inches of snow in the same state. So we have fires and ice at the same time. I don't know, it seems like they're playing with the weather for Agenda 2030, and let's not forget, this former president, Lyndon B. Johnson, said, "He who controls the weather controls the world." So there's that. Make sure you guys go to my YouTube where I did a bigger breakdown on this, and let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
This reminds me of the movie Geostorm, something like that.
The World Cup opening?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yo, they literally put up the
Carlos
right in your face.
Carlos.
So at this point, Gavin, do you think they're like low-key mocking us? Because everybody knows this is Illuminati symbol.
Yeah, it was all a historic ritual.
I'm thinking too, that's W marketing.
Imagine opening like this, but you have the whole world watching still. That's a haha you. You know what I mean? You know, one person, the first goal that they scored, you know how the Masonic symbol is like
Yeah,
this?
you did the compass,
He threw
right?
that shit off. You know when they put the idol, the World Cup trophy on the top, and there was stairways up to it? It looked exactly like the pyramid.
Yeah.
And guess what was dancing around it? Labubus.
I saw that.
Labubus are
That's
what?
so wild, bro. It is a Pazuzu. Like a demonic entity.
Okay, Shakira. You see what she was dancing on top of?
No, what was it?
With a purple dress on top of the world. So in Revelation 17, it says a woman arrived in purple over all the people's nations, holding in her hand a cup full of abominations. In her hand, she was holding the World Cup.
This is in Revelation?
In Revelation 17.
Whoa. What if they're trying to usher in Revelation? Like, by making these prophecies come true. Going by the scripture?
Yeah.
The Antichrist or whoever.
Oh my God.
Because there's some people that worship that, right?
100%.
Now, for it to happen, what do they need to do? They need to make these things happen.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how much they can try, Jesus Christ is the king.
A convicted sex offender who fled an Interpol red notice runs one of the most watched television networks on earth, and you've probably never heard of him. This guy is Michael Adam Lazowski. Take a look at him.
Sure.
As a Princeton student, he was arrested smuggling $120,000 worth of hash from London to New York. He fled to Thailand. In Thailand, he built a factory making licensed Disney merchandise. Thousands of workers accused him of exploitation. Protesters burned him in effigy on the streets of Bangkok. One local security company even advertised that it would eliminate him for $300,000. But this guy is a survivor. Then he reinvented himself as a fashion mogul. In 1997, French regulators granted him a national broadcast license despite warnings from the French embassy in Thailand linking him to money laundering and trafficking allegations. Now, 4 months earlier, he'd been arrested for coca possession. They gave him the license anyway. Then things got even darker. A 21-year-old Polish model testified that Lazowski struck her, tore off her dress, threw her onto a bed, and attempted to R her before she escaped. He was later convicted and sentenced to a year in prison. Interpol issued a red notice. He never served the sentence. Instead, fashion TV exploded into tens of millions of homes worldwide. And if this story wasn't crazy enough, Lazowski lived at 22 Avenue Foch in Paris, the same building where Jeffrey Epstein owned an apartment. In 2010, Epstein reportedly tried to buy Fashion TV through Jean-Luc Brunel. Remember him? The deal fell apart. Today, Fashion TV reaches roughly 400 million households around the world, and one of its most visible ambassadors is a current U.S. State Department envoy. Fashion TV has been operating for nearly 30 years. Someone watching this has worked for him. Someone watching this has crossed paths with Michael Adam Lazowski. What did you see? Drop a comment or send me a DM. Follow the Bad Decisions podcast and pick up the Big Book of Bad Decisions wherever books and audiobooks are sold. Thank you.
Everyone has heard of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, but few know of the 700 Spaniards at Covadonga. In the year 711 AD, the Visigothic kingdom of Hispania was shattered by Muslim invaders from North Africa. Within only a few short years, nearly the entire Iberian Peninsula had fallen, and the surviving Christians fled to the mountains of the north. There, they rallied around a Visigothic nobleman named Pelagius, the grandson of one of the last great Gothic kings. For years, Pelagius and his followers resisted from the mountains of Asturias, gathering refugees, warriors, and anyone unwilling to submit to the new rulers of Hispania and face the oppression of Islam. Realizing that this small rebellion was growing stronger, the invaders marched north with an absolutely massive army to crush them once and for all, and Pelagius knew that fighting in the open would mean certain death. So he led his 700 men into a narrow mountain pass protected by steep cliffs on both sides and waited. When the enemy entered the valley, they believed they had finally cornered the rebels and Pelagius and sent one of the leaders of the treasonous Gothic faction, Oppas, as an envoy to tell Pelagius to surrender immediately and submit to the Muslims. But Pelagius refused and famously spoke, quote, "I will not be aligned in friendships with the Arabs, nor will I subdue myself to their power. For we trust in the mercy of the Lord that the salvation of Hispania is from this modest little mountain that you see, and the army of the people of the Goths is to be restored." Suddenly, Pelagius retreated into a nearby cave, and the Muslim army chased after him. Out of nowhere, arrows, spears, and stones began raining down from the mountains above. Pelagius then emerged from a hidden cave with his best warriors, and the Christians made a final charge. Trapped in the narrow pass and attacked from every single direction, the
the invading army broke and fled. Against all odds, the Christians had won, and the Battle of Covadonga would become the first great victory of the centuries-long struggle to reclaim their land known as the Reconquista. What began as a small band of refugees hiding in these mountains would eventually become the kingdoms of Spain and Portugal. But this is only the beginning of the Reconquista, and if you'd like to know exactly how this battle started, who the invaders really were, and how and why they entered Hispania in the first place, you can go watch my full YouTube video that I have just released on my YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out the Mythic Vitalism merch as well, linked in my bio. Long live the glory of the Goths.
What if the most sophisticated esoteric education available for the last 3 generations was hidden inside Japanese animation? Studio Ghibli, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Ghost in the Shell, Full Metal Alchemist. These are not a children's entertainment dressed in beautiful visuals. They are initiatory documents encoded for a culture that understood symbol and myth at a level Western storytelling largely abandoned. Full Metal Alchemist is the most explicit. The entire narrative structure maps onto
I have played that game before.
the Hermetic Great Work. 2 brothers attempting to violate the fundamental alchemical law of equivalent exchange. The price extracted from them for that transgression is the central wound the entire story orbits. Equivalent exchange is Hermetic law. You cannot create without losing something of equal value. The anime makes this the moral and cosmological foundation of an entire world and teaches it to millions of teenagers who have never heard the word alchemy. Neon Genesis Evangelion runs deeper and darker. The Human Instrumentality Project at its center is a direct encoding of Kabbalistic cosmology, the reunion of fragmented souls into a single unified consciousness, the dissolution of the individual ego boundary as both salvation and annihilation. The angels are not enemies in any conventional narrative sense. They are aspects of the divine attempting to complete a cosmic process that human resistance keeps interrupting. Hideaki Anno was drawing from the Tree of Life, whether he acknowledged it publicly or not. Ghost in the Shell asked the question that the Gnostics asked 2000 years before it. If consciousness can exist independently of the body that generated it, what is the self and who owns it? The Japanese animation tradition carried esoteric cosmology into the mass culture through the one vehicle institutions cannot easily censor: story. For the full breakdown of occult and alchemical frameworks encoded across these traditions, I'll go much deeper inside my private study circle on Telegram. Link is in bio. Now tell me, what anime broke something open in you that you still have not fully explained?
Okay, so this being right here is not an alien. He is in fact an interdimensional demonic being who was summoned by an occultist named Aleister Crowley back in 1918. Now, a little bit of backstory on Aleister Crowley. He was a famous occultist and magician who died back in 1947, and during a series of strange rituals called the Alamantra workings, he claimed to have summoned the weird alien-looking being called Lam. Now, Aleister was able to sketch an image of Lam from memory after his encounter, and this is apparently what he looked like. Now, we both know what it resembles, but this classic image of the grey-looking alien was not reported up until the Roswell incident in 1947, 30 years after Aleister Crowley had his encounter with Lam. So could this be proof that what we think of as aliens are in fact demonic beings? Let me know what you think.
These are people that worship Moloch and sacrifice children. I can't sugarcoat that. Okay, how is it possible that Walt Disney Corporation has anything to do with biomedical and scientific British publication? And here's how that interlinks. It's just crazy. After World War II, Charles Darwin's grandson and Fleming, the guy who discovered penicillin, they went to the British government and they said, hey, we think you need to improve biomedical and scientific publishing house. And so they said, no problem. They combined these 2 publishing houses. And guess who they put in as the editor? This is where we start getting into the Disney realm. Okay. They hired as the editor of this Robert Maxwell. Now, Robert Maxwell has nothing to do with medical education, right? Or scientific publication. But it turns out that the owner of the largest scientific publishing house in England, all during the war and before and after, it was the intelligence services owned their publishing. So now they hire Robert Maxwell, who was a proven and admitted a spy for the British during World War II, but he was also a Mossad agent because he's buried on the Mount of Olives. Who's Robert Maxwell? He's Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the Disney Corporation, it turns out, his son is named Robert Maxwell Iger because he was a best buddy of Robert Maxwell. And then you have the whole issue of Ghislaine Maxwell with Jeffrey Epstein and the whole pedophile problem. It turns out the Disney Corporation has cruise ships that would go and do diving things off St. James or the neighboring island. It's all big one incestuous thing, but one of the things that flows through everything, it shows the pedophile connection to all of this. So who they are people that have big enough money for universal censorship, big enough money to come after, doctors all over the world, take over the system to come after us all over the world. And they're connected heavily by funding from pedophilia. And the even more evil thing that they don't talk about is body parts. Is the number one money in the world is selling body parts.
What are parents still contributing to Disney in any capacity?
This kid just went missing for exposing something in crypto.
Literally shaking after finding what I just saw on Bitcoin. Like, I feel like I'm going to hit post and then I'm going to be like washed or something after I walk out of my house today. Look at this chart on Bitcoin. Notice anything suspicious? Oh, maybe every single all-time low and all-time high run were the same exact amount of days. I'm literally in disbelief. Look at this. 2014 to 2017, the exact day we made all-time highs was 1,064 days. Okay, whatever. Doesn't really mean much. Okay, 2017, 2018 went back to all-time lows, took 364 days. 2018 to 2021, when did we top out? The exact day, Monday the 15th, 2021 November. How many days was it? 1,064, just like the previous run. Oh, and what do you know? From that exact top back to the low, 364 days. Okay, Monday the 8th of November to Monday the 7th of November, 2022. And what do you know? This run from all-time lows to all-time highs, 1,064 days again, all the way from Monday the 7th, November 2022 to Monday the 6th, October 2025. So what does that mean? That basically means we know exactly when Bitcoin's going to bottom out. This shit, if accurate, which it should be, there's less than a 0.0000001% chance it's so random. Monday the 6th, 2025, so it'd be Monday the 5th, October 2026, which would put us around maybe 20 to 40,000. Maybe that's where we're bottom out, and then we'll buy again. Like, don't even listen to me. I'm just showing you what
maybe it's not as, decentralized as we think. Maybe there's a consciousness to it.
Aleister Crowley, aka the Beast 666, Part 3. Making a stop in Cairo, Egypt, where they would stay the night in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, and Aleister would start reading from the Lesser Key of Solomon, also known as the Goetia. Later, Rose would start getting messages from the other side, or who she believed to be Horus. Aleister, knowing that she was very ignorant of Egyptology, took her to a museum to have her point out the deity who she claimed to be speaking to. And to his surprise, she brought him to display 666 with a stele depicting Ra, very similar to the modern interpretation of Horus. Soon after, Aleister would make contact with a being he dubbed Ayahuas. This being would tell him that mankind was on the verge of a new equinox, a new aeon, and over the next 3 days would dictate to him the Book of the Law, which would become the foundation from his group, the Lima, and give us the infamous quote, "Do what thou wilt." After leaving Egypt, Aleister's wife Rose would give birth to a baby girl named Lilith for short. Around this same time, Aleister was set off to lead an expedition of Kanchenjunga, the third highest peak in the world, located in the Himalayas. There would be a mutiny along the climb, and 4 climbers would eventually lose their lives while rebelling against Aleister's leadership and the way that he treated his servants on the expedition. After the failed expedition, Aleister would retreat to his family and would take them on the trip across China. He would eventually abandon his family on the trip across China to go meet up with one of his mistresses in Shanghai. The two would perform magic together, but on his arrival back in Britain, he would find out that his daughter had died from typhoid. He would blame his wife Rose's alcoholism for the incident and would begin to abuse her terribly, eventually having her locked up in a mental institution in 1911. But before Rose would be sent to the mental hospital, they would have another daughter, Lola Zaza, who would be raised by the Kelly family. The same year his daughter was born in 1907, he would make a dedicated disciple, Victor Noriborg. The two would become lovers and immediately start performing magic together.
People take ketamine and they all have the same vision. When they do this drug, they all get the same idea, which is that the machines are coming together, they're evolving to eventually take over, and that we are hanging ourselves with the rope we're currently building by building this.
It's a little weird that different people from different places, different countries, different life experiences would take a drug and have the same kind of vision.
Totally
that can't be organic.
Here's what he's describing, and it has a name, the Whisperer. It begins as one worry that isn't yours and grows until it's taken your sleep, your appetite, your mind, and the drug does its work for it. Ketamine pulls you out of your own mind and drops the guard. Takes away the mind was never a side effect. It's the open door. It's one weakness. It only works while it stays hidden. Call on God, the Most High, the Almighty, the I Am, and it has to retreat. A thought that comes from nowhere and eats you alive isn't yours. Name it. Call on him.
I was so hooked on this new documentary about people hunting for mammoths. People find a fully intact mammoth that looks like it died yesterday, when in reality it died thousands of years ago. This documentary follows multiple groups of people whose job it is to search for pieces of mammoths in Alaska, in Yukon, in Europe. If you love documentaries and you're always looking for something to watch, hit follow because I post daily. I didn't expect to be as hooked on this documentary as I was. It was like watching a treasure hunt. These people fangirl so hard when they go out into the field and they start looking in areas for pieces of mammoths. It's really weird because just the other day I was researching if a full mammoth had ever been discovered, and yes, in this documentary one mammoth literally falls out of the mountainside and it looks as though it died just a few days prior. It's so incredible, and it's almost like seeing an alien be discovered in the ground. And I love documentaries like this because you get a massive look into a world that you would otherwise know nothing about. And the people who do this for a living are so cool.
What if I told you that they've been lying to you about creativity?
You ask any artist, the music is a success upon creation. When you give it to somebody like a Rolling Stone or a Vibe and they start critiquing it, then your perception changes. But that's looking through somebody else's eyes. So again, we gauge success based upon what we feel in our hearts. We've shut our minds off now. Minds should be used for what they were made for, filing cabinets. We think with our hearts.
I'm not saying feedback is bad. Feedback is very useful. But somewhere along the way, we started trusting other people's opinions more than our own when it comes to our creativity.
That's right.
The mind is really great at organizing information and solving problems, but creativity comes from something deeper. If what you created feels honest and meaningful, don't let somebody else's perspective convince you otherwise. Creativity dies when expression becomes approval seeking.
Chris was on a level of his own.
This cross in this painting doesn't exist in our universe. Painted in 1954 by Salvador Dali, Crucifixion, Corpus Hypercubus, depicts Christ on a shape that cannot exist in our three-dimensional world. It's called a hypercube, a four-dimensional cube unfolded into our reality. Dali became fascinated with mathematics and physics in his later years because he believed science and faith weren't enemies. They were different ways of understanding the same mystery. Look closer. There are no nails, no blood, no crown of thorns. Christ appears untouched, emphasizing divinity over suffering. Below him stands Gala, Dali's own wife, looking upward as if witnessing something beyond human comprehension. For Dali, this wasn't just the crucifixion. It was an attempt to place the most important moment in Christianity outside space and time itself. If you'd like to decode paintings for yourself, my ebook, The Hidden Language of Symbols, is available through the link in my bio.
What if one of the greatest writers of the 20th century looked at football and saw something much darker than a game? Jorge Luis Borges hated football. He called it aesthetically ugly. He said it's popular because stupidity is popular, which sounds like snobby book guy nonsense until you read the story he published in 1967. In it, a man discovers that the National Football Stadium has vanished overnight. Then he's told the truth. Football matches don't really happen anymore. The last real game was in 1937. Everything since has been staged. Empty stadiums, actors in jerseys, one announcer in a booth inventing the entire match live, while the entire country listens and believes. Football has stopped being a sport. It's become a performance, a national hallucination. And then, 11 years later, Argentina hosted the 1978 World Cup under a military dictatorship. On the day of Argentina's opening match, while the nation gathered around the TV, Borges scheduled a lecture across town. The subject was immortality. That's what makes this feel less like literary snobbery and more like a warning. Borges wasn't really afraid of the game, he was afraid of the crowd. The roar of thousands of people made to feel one thing at the same time. And in 1978, that roar was not innocent. Argentina played at the Monumental Stadium in Buenos Aires, and less than a mile away was ESMA, the dictatorship's main detention and torture center. People held there could hear the stadium when Argentina scored. So maybe Borges wasn't being dramatic. Maybe he understood exactly what a crowd can drown out. Follow me for book history, publishing stories, and literary rabbit holes.
8 crazy facts about the Moors you never knew. The last one will blow your mind. 1. The Moors ruled Spain for over 700 years, from 711 to 1492, longer than the United States has even existed. 2. They introduced algebra, algorithms, and the concept of zero to Europe, which became the foundation of modern science and technology. 3. The word algorithm comes from a Moorish scholar, Al-Khwarizmi, whose work powers computers today. 4. Moorish cities had streetlights, hospitals, libraries, and running water, while much of Europe still lived in filth. 5. They built over 70 public libraries in Spain, preserving and translating ancient texts that would later spark the Renaissance. 6. Moorish doctors performed surgeries with anesthesia, while Europeans relied on bloodletting and prayers. 7. They introduced luxury to Europe, from silk and spices to glass mirrors, toothpaste, and even etiquette at the dinner table. 8. Without the Moors, there would be no Renaissance, no universities, and no modern science. Yet their black African legacy was erased from history books.
This is day 3 of me trying to convince you that Jeffrey Epstein was performing sex magic rituals to summon entities using the methods of Aleister Crowley. This will be the most important episode of this investigation. If you only remember one fact about Epstein's temple, it should be this one. The door to Epstein's temple is completely fake. The door is painted on. It is a flat illusion of a door painted on the side of a building. But Epstein went a step further. He painted a lock on this fake door. But strangely, he chose to paint the lock on the outside of the door. Think about what this means for a moment. The sliding lock is on the outside of the door, meaning that it's not designed to keep something out. It is designed to lock something in. Whatever Epstein put inside of that temple was meant to stay sealed inside of it. But it gets worse because the door faces north. So in the tradition of the Golden Dawn, and that's Crowley's first group, which he eventually left to form his own group around the religion Thelema, the way that you build a temple matters. And specifically, the direction that you face a door matters because it tells the spirit world your intentions in terms of what you want to summon. The Golden Dawn assigns north to the Archangel Uriel. But in the older Christian tradition, which the Golden Dawn pulls from amongst other sources, north is the direction of the demonic and the fall of man. During medieval baptisms, churches would deliberately open their northward-facing doors so that any demons attached to the child could escape once it had been cleansed of original sin. North is the direction you let evil out of, but it's also the direction that you could summon evil in. Now consider all of these elements together. There is a door that does not open, It faces the direction associated with summoning evil spirits, and the lock on this door is meant to seal whatever is summoned inside. These are all deliberate choices made by Epstein. He is revealing the method because he knows that, to the uninitiated, this information is meaningless. Tomorrow, I will take you inside of the temple and explain why there are 2 mismatched pillars and the statue standing guard outside. Subscribe so you don't miss it, or you can watch my full documentary on YouTube, which is linked in my bio.
Finally, someone get it.
Wave in Europe, like what's going on?
It could be Agenda 2030, only because, again, going back to Venezuela. So Caracas had that 7.2, 7.5, buildings were collapsing. Guess what Caracas has planned for 2030?
Don't say smart city.
They have a smart city plan for 2030, posted by the World Economic Forum.
Oh, you can't make this shit up.
So what's interesting about this plan, though, is that they're saying they want the age range from 20 to 35 to lead this new push into the city, only because the older generation isn't going to accept a smart city. So what they're essentially saying is, being that you're either a millennial or Gen Z and later, you're going to be more susceptible and be easier integrated into a system like a smart city.
So translation, easier to indoctrinate because
exactly, you're already there.
You're already in it.
The game predicted this. Call of Duty Ghosts in the game, where it's based in 2027, to where Caracas was in ruins and then it got rebuilt into a smart city. This is in the game. And not after they capture their leader.
And that was in the game.
And that was in the game.
Come on. I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah, all this shit is EA Sports.
Shit, man.
Yeah.
It's in the game.
Now, Jamaica, not too long ago, had their whole situation.
Wait, what happened in Jamaica?
They got decimated. I believe it was a natural disaster. It was something that happened that decimated the city.
Yeah, it was a Category 5 hurricane that was in Jamaica.
After that happened, people start pulling up certain documents. They're like, is there a smart city plan? Yeah, there is actually.
Wow.
There's a smart city plan for Jamaica. There's a smart city plan for Asheville as well. Remember Asheville? All these smart cities are popping up to where these natural disasters are happening. Same thing with Caracas. And what's interesting is that they're calling it Freedom City, which is the same name in America that Trump is trying to build. That's one of his initiatives. He wants to build cities to where...
This shit don't sound free. That's what I was going to say. They always invert this shit. It's always inverted. So like Freedom City is the opposite. Like everything's going to be totalitarian.
Right. Who's free?
AI. They're going to know everything. Your face is scanned. 15-minute city. Like,
I don't feel that free.
That's not free. None of it's free.
That's the thing though, because if they do offer UBI, you are essentially living for free, but now you're a product to the government.
But see, it's all in the language. Freedom City. This is freedom.
Right.
UBI. Come check this check. Live for free. Freedom. It's in the language.
It's in the language.
They're already trying to drip feed what they're rolling out.
If you control the weather, you control the world. Don't forget, they have that technology.
There's a guy in Japan started raising tomato plants with pressurized carbon dioxide. You know, plants breathe CO2 and not oxygen. His tomato plant grew faster than normal. When it was 2 years old, it was 16 feet tall and produced 900 tomatoes. They moved it to a shopping center and built scaffolding to hold the branches up. They said, you know, this thing might produce 10,000 tomatoes. This is one tomato plant. It ended up growing 40 feet tall and producing 15,000 tomatoes off one plant. It was a cherry tomato plant, but tomatoes were coming off baseball size off of his.
Plus, he also used filtered sunlight, not just CO2.
Of course, the Zionist pedophiles who wrote our history books don't want you to know that Iran used to be our greatest ally in the Middle East.
Is that the Shah was the best friend of the United States in that area.
If Iran is our greatest enemy today, why did their former Shah try to warn us of who really runs our country?
You think the Jewish lobby in the United States is too powerful for the interests of Israel?
I think so. Sometimes they are disserving the interests of Israel because they're pushing around too many people.
How do you mean pushing around?
Well, pressuring. They have many means at their disposal. They are putting up pressure on many, many people. And at the end, I don't think that it will even help Israel.
Why, if this is true, why would the President of the United States pay attention to that lobby?
They are strong.
Strong in what sense?
They are controlling many things.
Controlling what?
Newspapers, medias,
Your Majesty,
banks, finances, and I'm going to stop there.
Well, now wait just a second. You really do believe that the Jewish community in the United States is that powerful?
Makes you wonder who really helped start the Islamic Revolution in 1979.
I used to think that Tartaria was a place on a map. This is just a level of consciousness that you're not awake. You have no idea what's going on. Level 1 consciousness is go to work, consume their labels, and repeat. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The buyer is a slave to the lender. That's in the Bible. That's the only kind of slavery that's ever existed. And then you'll have sheep in the comments that will say that that's not true. Okay, so what kind of slaves were these people? They look free as fuck to me. I love that life. And then some people will say that's AI. It's fucking not AI, stupid. Everything is a lie. You're asleep. I mean, does this make it a little bit more realistic for you? Okay, so that's a Nazi coin. And it's a fucking Zionist situation of Israel. Who took this fucking picture? You ever thought about that? Wake up. Hello. 1912. None of these people have the right size skulls, but that's not important. Putin's back there. The Titanic seems to be floating just fine back there. I don't know. Is that carpet over there? It looks a little bit like carpet, but who took the fucking picture?
So you saying this is fake? Titanic is fake?
You guys gonna fight over Jack and Diane and the fucking the heart because they were white? It's probably yours, Jack and Rose. Do you want to know what I think the fallen angels are? People that went to a clinic and had babies that didn't live. And I absolutely didn't ask your opinion. My dad was a transgender. Where did I come from? He has no sperm.
A new Apple commercial is raising concerns after people say it depicts, well, that. And I mean, come on, at this point, they're literally putting it in our faces. And we know Apple has poked at religion for years. I mean, look at the logo. It's literally a bite taken out of the forbidden fruit. But it's almost like, when is enough enough? When is it too far? When are we finally going to see what they are doing in our faces? Because, I mean, there's clearly no other way around this message. Now, I know some people could say that they know marketing. This is all for publicity. They knew it was going to get people talking. But then again, do you really think a company that is a God-believing, God-fearing company is going to make some kind of mockery like this? I mean, honestly, tell me that. Because like I said, I mean, they've hit a thin line before, but this is about as thin as the line in our faces as it can get. I mean, am I right? But I mean, then again, it's just an Apple commercial. We're all going to be on our iPhones scrolling. So at this point, what can we do with this information except for understand it and be aware? But either way, this is absolutely crazy. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comments. My name is AT. I just got banned of 5.7 million followers. So like and follow for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And if there's any stories you want me to cover, tag me. I'm always checking.
Whatever gave you the impression Apple was a God-fearing company? Come on, man.
Okay, I just found out about something super messed up. Apparently in China, thousands of people are going homeless because their social credit score is so low that the government isn't allowing them to even get their money from their salary or buy anything. They can't buy an apartment or even a hotel.
Picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage, all goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It sounds like that show Black Mirror, but it's actually happening in China. So how does that change you? Does it change you? What does your life look like when your every move is watched? The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras. And that's totally fine with Oh-Young Hao-Yu. She's 21, graduated from a good school with solid grades. She's diligent. She's nice. No surprise, she's a 752. That's her rating with Sesame Credit, a private company working with the government on the algorithms for the social credit system. The scores go from 350 to 950 and are based on habits and behavior. Buy clothes or diapers, it's good. A lot of alcohol, too many video games. not so good.
What?
How 752 puts
That's
her in model
crazy.
citizen range and gets her discounts and privileges, like using a shared bike without a deposit. She likes it. Her friends do too. They all have pretty high scores.
It's a mechanism pushes you to become a better citizen, to build on the trust, especially on the Chinese market.
Because you're not going to be punished if you haven't done anything wrong.
I think that's the point. I think the system is working as a warning or a alert to push people to do it, to be a good person.
And it's mandatory.
Peter Nygaard was a billionaire fashion mogul who was convicted of horrifying crimes. And behind those crimes was an even fucking stranger obsession. Nygaard became obsessed with anti-aging research and controversial cloning methods, which is called somatic cell
Man, he looks like Halloween.
nuclear transfer. This idea is to use genetic materials to create new cells in hopes of reversing aging. According to the investigation, it's said that he allegedly was targeting in the Bahamas. A lot of you have asked me, why is he specifically targeting? He was going for more economically vulnerable women. There are many Native families in the Bahamas that struggle with poverty, so an opportunity from him is fucking huge. Another reason, melanin has anti-aging properties. Melanin is a natural pigment and it acts as a UV shield in the upper epidermal layer, which produces a more tightly collagen network in your skin. Also, their and genetic contribute to rejuvenation. Disclaimer, this is supposedly what he thought. There's no scientific evidence to back this up. Now, watch this clip.
The young girl that is on record that he actually took his own child, he had a child with a 14-year-old, and he was taking the stem cells from that baby. I think they brought it to term maybe 8 months, I believe.
Yeah.
And then started taking the cells right from the baby and injecting it into himself. He personally did it.
Well, that's when they kept it alive, they told. So he's milking the baby.
Yeah.
And today, Peter is serving a sentence in prison after being convicted on multiple counts of assault. Nothing to do with his trip that he took to the Bahamas.
Thousands of people are now fleeing South Africa out of fear because something big is about to happen. Undocumented foreigners have been told they have tomorrow to leave, or else the country will be shut down.
Go back to your countries. We are tired of you guys. Go back to your countries.
That is according to an anti-illegal immigration group called March and March. They claim that these foreigners are responsible for high levels of crime, unemployment of native South Africans, and burdening public services and infrastructure like healthcare and schools. But here's the problem. While this movement claims to only be campaigning against illegal immigrants, there have been widespread reports of documented foreigners being targeted as well. Over the past few months alone, several incidents have been reported of foreigners being attacked and even killed, as well as their homes being set on fire. On top of that, migrants say that they've received threats like, if you don't leave now before the 30th of June, you're gonna leave in a coffin. And the situation has got so intense that the governments of countries like Ghana, Mozambique, Nigeria, Malawi, Zimbabwe, etc. are desperately trying to repatriate thousands of their nationals back home before tomorrow's unofficial deadline. In fact, approximately 13,000 individuals have gone back to their home country in the last 2 weeks alone. And while the South African government have condemned and rejected this planned nationwide shutdown, March and March say they are going ahead, and illegal foreigners have less than 24 hours to get out.
If you've ever eaten with Oneida silverware, there's a good chance you have no idea where the company actually came from. Now, long before the brand became known for forks, knives, and fancy dinner sets, its history traces back to the Oneida community, a controversial religious commune founded in 1848 by John Humphrey Noyes. According to historical records, the group believed they could create a perfect society on Earth. You see, their idea was perfection was anything but ordinary. Members lived communally, shared property, and rejected traditional marriage. Instead, the community practiced what they called complex marriage, where relationships were regulated by the group rather than exclusive couples. Noyes himself often influenced who formed relationships with whom. Then things became even more controversial. In the late 1800s, the community launched a program called serpiculture, an early form of selective breeding. Leaders approved certain members to have children because they believed they can improve future generations. More than 50 children were born through this experiment before it ended. As public pressure grew and legal scrutiny increased, the commune began to collapse. Noise fled to Canada. The group abandoned its most controversial practices, and the community reorganized as a business. That business eventually became Oneida Limited, one of the most recognizable silverware companies in America. So the next time you sit down for dinner, remember the fork in your hand may trace its history back to one of the most controversial social experiments in American history.
2 weeks ago, a company broke ground on an aircraft factory twice the size of Boeing's largest plant, the one that makes the 747 and the 787. That company is called JetZero. You probably never heard of them because they've actually never built a plane before. And what they're about to build does not look like a plane that you've flown on. The whole aircraft is shaped like a wing, with the body blended into it instead of bolted onto it. It's called the Z4. It holds 250 passengers and is up to 50% more fuel efficient than anything flying today, simply because of its shape. United and Alaska have placed conditional orders, and over a dozen airlines have already given feedback before it's even been built. The $4.7 billion factory in Greensboro, North Carolina is 8 million square feet and is promising over 14,000 jobs over the next decade. Most companies prove the plane works and then build the factory. JetZero built the factory first before flying a single passenger.
There is a large number of missing children in Venezuela following the major earthquake, and people on the ground are sounding the alarm that something nefarious is going on.
Disturbing thing that's going on is that apparently they are taking traumatized and orphaned children to use for child trafficking.
And parents that are looking for their children and being interviewed by the news are telling some strange stories.
We also have one of the people who's quite affected. I would like you to first give me your first and last name, please. I am Noraima Perez, a waitress at the Camurive Clinic, and I am here affected because my 4 children are missing. My daughter Aranza Lopez was taken out alive, but they took her out with a last name that is not hers. Aranza Vergara appears in Social Security. I have looked for her in all the hospitals in Caracas, and she does not appear where they transferred her either.
And if you're like me and you're questioning whether or not this clip is real because the woman being interviewed has an Indian accent, I asked Grok and the footage appears to be authentic, and what she is saying is that her daughter's name was changed to something else. And now she's completely missing from the system. People online are also reporting very strange listings on Vinted, like this one, a 3-year-old pizza rabbit for $6,300, which is very reminiscent to what was happening on Wayfair several years ago. The organization Save the Children is on the ground and also asking for donations. The same organization that Hillary Clinton has a long and rich history with. She's advocated for the organization, she's raised money for the organization, and she's also collabed with the organization through the Clinton Foundation. Any claims that she used this organization to traffic children is just a conspiracy theory that started in 2020 along with Pizzagate. And we know how that turned out. The reason I'm sharing this information is because there's still 100,000 children in Venezuela missing and an additional 680,000 children that need family reunification. So if there is evil at play here, it's important that we shed light on what's going on in hopes that it stops. If you see a listing like this on Vinted, Wayfair, Pinterest, or any other app, report it immediately. Praying for all of the people in Venezuela that have been affected by this earthquake, and especially the children. As always, let me know what you think about all of this down below.
Don't trust any organization on saving children. And please, God, protect those children.
Legend says there is a half-human, half-snake living in the secret basement of a popular mall near Manila called Robinson's Galleria. Some say the human snake is actually a child of John Gokungwe, the owner of Robinson Malls. This little boy, this little creature, does not like to eat anything but pretty young women. Now, it's debatable what he does with these women. Some versions of the urban legend say that he swallows them whole like a snake. Others say that he digs his fangs into their necks and drains them of every drop of their blood, just leaving bloodless, empty shells of dead women all around him. Either way, the family was forced to build a massive compound to house their son that happened to be half human, half snake. And they had to constantly find young women to feed their son. But you cannot just throw a big building in the middle of nowhere and have a bunch of young women disappear that's connected to that building and think that nothing is going to happen. So the only solution that they could come up with that made logical sense was a mall. It would give the family unlimited access to girls, and it would house their son in the underground basement. The fitting rooms were said to have these hidden cameras, and sometimes there would be two-way mirrors that allowed their son to see these girls. He's very particular. He likes them young and pretty. He has a style. Even though he's trapped in the basement, he would pick the ones that he wanted, and with the press of a button inside the fitting rooms, the floor would disappear from underneath them, and they would slide down the tunnel straight into his mouth.
We cannot sit here and lie to ourselves and say that this is not Roman architecture. Like, where do these buildings look like they are from? Clearly not modern America. I mean, some of these structures are massive. Like, if I showed you this picture with no context, you would think that is Rome. That's because it is. And the pyramids and the ancient Egyptian architecture that is all throughout the United States, they are hiding how intelligent our ancestors actually were. These were not handmade buildings. Allegedly, these were all hammered and chiseled. Are we being serious? Hammered and chiseled that? Our ancestors were extremely intelligent. They don't want you finding out that free energy is all around us. The ether is a real thing. We can't ignore everything Nikola Tesla said. All the people should have free energy in unlimited quantities without the need of coal, oil, gas. We have unlimited, infinite energy in the air, and they don't want you finding out about that. And this is why they had to destroy everything. With all these major fires in all these cities, they just destroyed everything, all the ancient architecture. They just dumbed everybody down and rewrote history, and they gave you his story. Follow for more. 13 Love.
Make Tartaria great again.
Apparently in this World Cup, for a lot of the African teams, people caught witches in their stands, like doing spells.
I heard of that. I heard.
There's two examples of this. So one of them was against Portugal versus Congo. So the thing about Portugal and Congo, like their ranks are completely different. Portugal's like what, top 10? And in Congo, they're like 50th or something like that. In the stands, they saw someone doing witchcraft on the Portugal team.
Wild.
And they were able to tie against Portugal, which is like almost impossible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
against Ronaldo?
Yes, against Ronaldo. And then the same thing happened in the Ghana versus England game. And England's like a top 5 team. And Ghana, they're like 60th place. Somebody saw the same thing in the crowd and they're able to tie the game too.
So Shakira says, we are all inheritors of Abrahamic culture. Therefore, we are all Israel. All right, let me give you a little tip. You ready for this? Whenever you hear a celebrity say something crazy like that, you just come over here to the DOJ website, justice.gov/Epstein, type in their name, in this case, Shakira, and boom, there we go. Email between Jeffrey Epstein and Boris Nikolic. Would you like to come to the Westin? I will be with Shakira, wink, wink, every single time, allegedly.
Oh my God, I went down this crazy rabbit hole the other day. Have you ever heard of this dude named Phil Schneider?
That sounds familiar, but I don't think so.
He is like one of the original whistleblowers, and I'm gonna lie, I think he was probably like one of the first people that I've seen that talked about adrenochrome.
Really?
Yes. This dude is pretty much saying the elites,
Yeah.
where they got that from, was from aliens.
Like the idea of doing that?
Yes. This guy pretty much says that he used to work for the government back in the day. Pretty much said that he had encounters with these aliens, and that the government made this treaty with these other aliens that pretty much like they will exchange information to us and we will give them people.
What?
Yes. And the reason why he said that these aliens, they would get the adrenochrome from us and use it like a drug.
So they were getting basically high off of us.
High off of us. Yes. This dude literally said it's like cocaine to them. And then this guy said that he was with a Green Beret and they were going through these tunnels underground.
Yeah.
And that there were these aliens down there. And he said that they were almost having like a war down there. They got into this firefight. He said he killed like one or two of them. And he said that one of them hit him with this like blue beam. And he said like it left this huge scar on my chest. This guy has like no fingers left because he said he got hit with this beam and like his toes are all messed up and everything. The Green Beret guy helped him get out of there.
Yeah.
And then did tours and was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
A year later, they find him at his apartment with strangle marks around his throat. He said that pretty much the treaty that they made with these aliens, that it ends around 2029.
The alien agenda is the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of 5, 6 to 7/8 of the world's population by the year 2029. U.S. military has known about this for 45 years.
Fallen angels, They sacrifice for technology.
Japanese biologist wins a Nobel Prize for discovering how the body eats its own damaged cells when it doesn't receive food. What exactly is happening inside your cells when you skip a meal? In 2016, Yoshinori Ashumi won the Nobel Prize in physiology for mapping a process that your cells have been running since the beginning of human existence. He called it autophagy. When your body goes without food long enough, it stops waiting for external resources to do a self-audit. Damaged proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, bacterial overgrowth, viruses, precancerous cells, your body starts tagging them and starts breaking them down. And then it starts recycling the parts. It's your own built-in cellular cleanup crew, and it only clocks in when you stop eating. Your body doesn't need more input. Sometimes it just needs you to get out of the way. But hang tight if you want more videos about fasting, how I've done over 100 days. So make sure you follow for more.
16-hour fasting is easier if you just avoid dinner.
So many native nations tracked time by the moon cycles, and they mapped it right on the back of a turtle. Our ancestors knew exactly what time it was long before colonization gave us the Gregorian calendar. The Hab is the Maya solar calendar, which tracks the sun, the seasons, and the land, so that we know especially when to plant and when to harvest. And the Cholki, the sacred Mayan calendar, is 260 days, which is the exact time it takes for corn to grow from seed to harvest, and for a human to grow inside the womb. This is a powerful synchronicity because many native peoples believe that the human is corn. We are considered the corn peoples. Life is the same sacred cycle, just wearing different forms. So let's look at a turtle's shell. The plates around the outside edges adds up to 28. That's exactly one moon cycle. And the center plates are the 13 lunar cycles. 13 times 28 equals 364 days, which is almost a perfect year. But there's one day for a reset. Nature carries the calendar in her body, and our ancestors were paying attention. Then colonization came, and with it the Gregorian calendar, with the months that don't match up with the moon, weeks that don't follow any natural cycle. It's a calendar built around politics and religion and not nature. Living out of sync with the natural cycles and seasons disconnects us from the land and from our bodies. A woman's cycle is 28 days, the same as the moon. That's a pattern repeating again, built by design. That's why some natives call it your moon. When you bleed, your blood has always been tracking sacred time. These calendars weren't just measuring the sky, they were mapping you, your body, your cycles, your place on the land. They aligned the people with the seasons, the harvests, the migrations. They knew when to rest, when to celebrate, when to harvest, when to have ceremonies so that humans could live in harmony with their true nature. The Maya is one of the most astronomically advanced civilizations to ever exist, and they built that truth into their calendars, their architecture, and worked with it as a living system. The Maya understood that the moment you were born, you entered a specific sacred energy, a specific day sign, with a specific purpose. So you didn't arrive by accident, you arrived on time, in sacred time. And that's what a Tree of Life reading reveals, your day sign, your energy, your original blueprint. This is the ancestors' gift for you. The link is in the bio to find out your Mayan sign and your unique energetic blueprint.
Alright, I'm going to prove to you that space is fake and the firmament is real. This is Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun was one of the greatest rocket scientists ever in history. And as you can see right here, he literally led the development of Saturn V, which was the first vehicle that took the first men to the moon in 1969. So this man was quite literally responsible for the first men getting on the moon. So right here is Saturn V. As you can see, this is the rocket that took those men to the moon. And right here you can see the launch of Apollo 11. Saturn V. This man was responsible for it. Now, as you guys can see, this man died in 1977. So let's take a look at his tombstone. Wernher von Braun, 1912 to 1977. Psalms 19:1. Let's take a look at Psalm. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Why would he put that on his tombstone? Now, I need you guys to realize, in this world that is run by satanic forces, they are forced to give you droplets of the truth. They just have to. So if this man was the inventor and pretty much the leader behind this entire mission, why would he put Psalms 19:1 that says the firmament showeth his handiwork on his tombstone? It's almost like he just handed you the truth. You can't go to space. There is a firmament. We are contained inside this midst of waters. It's a beautiful truth when you just learn to accept it. If you found this video helpful or insightful, drop a follow. I love you guys.
I believe this, but what about the satellites?
Let's start with something nobody ever questions. Every ancient civilization carved dragons. Not dinosaurs, dragons. China carved them in jade. Scotland carved them on stones. The Norse carved them into ships. The Aztecs worshipped them. The Bible describes them. Different countries, different languages, different eras. Same creature, same shape, same features. How? If dragons were mythology, why did the entire world agree on the same myth? No internet, no travel, no shared mythology system. Yet they all drew the same reptilian giant with wings, scales, fangs, fire, and intelligence. Meanwhile, dinosaurs. Nothing, not one carving, not one drawing, not one story, until the 1800s. For thousands of years, humans recorded everything they feared and everything they worshipped. But somehow, the giant lizards we're told ruled the earth leave zero trace in human memory. No cave art, no legends, no ancient warnings, no carvings like we see with dragons. Then, in 1842, boom, dinosaurs suddenly appear. A brand new word, a brand new history, a brand new storyline. So, the question is, if dragons were fake, why did the ancients spend thousands of years carving them like real animals? And if dinosaurs were real, why did humans completely ignore them for all of history until the Victorian era?
Everyone is scared of the mermaid, because it's a god of the Rele, and he thinks the mermaid will...
Listen, y'all, I'm gonna tell you one thing. If you're Caribbean, I'm Haitian. Anyone who is Caribbean, you're, let's say African, a lot of Hispanic countries too, the Philippines, every single place has a mermaid tale or a siren tale. I will say it again. Sirens, when I found out from the Book of Enoch, I read the Book of Enoch as history, not scripture. I believe it happened, but I don't read it as scripture. I'd have to say why in another video. Always thought that sirens existed. Always. I never doubted it. Like, because genuinely in that vast ocean, how can we say that something doesn't exist? And there's no way before telephones and everything existed that everybody had a story, but they didn't exist. Find out from the Book of Enoch that these are the mortal women that procreated with the fallen angels in the days of Noah. God cursed them to the sea to become sirens, allegedly, right? It would make sense because Lucifer was an angel of worship in heaven. They blame men for their curse, even though, listen, y'all had a choice. So what do they use? Music to lure who to the sea? Men to their unaliving. Like, it all makes sense. It goes hand in hand. That man was telling a story about the Rele people that worship the sirens as gods, which they are not. They are not. There's only one true God, Yahweh, amen. But they worship them as God because they're terrified of them. And literally, they have seen entire families go missing. Like, they go to the riverbank to collect water and they're gone. Just as quickly as you see them, they're poof, without a trace. But here's the thing. And listen, you guys know one thing about it. I'm going to think really too deep into something. The sirens that the Rele people worship, mind you, that's spelled Riele, or it might be double L. Those sirens take people, and a lot of times when the bodies wash up on the shore, every single time the bodies wash up on the shore, sorry, I went to go watch the video again, they are missing their tongue and their navel. I can't explain the navel part, but don't y'all find it weird? And you guys know I'm always side-eyeing Disney. Ariel, Rele, she lost her voice to be able to go to the shore, and they're missing their tongues. Am I thinking too deep into it? Listen, because immediately I was like, something's a little fishy, and no pun intended. I want your opinion. I want it right now. Make sure you like and follow. Comment down below if we should keep talking about this. I mean, I know we are, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Does birth control give you brain damage? If you Google that, it'll be like, no, there's no studies that prove that.
It does. Sorry, am I jumping to the end there? Let's see if I'm right.
But then you say, show me the studies that birth control damages the brain. Oh, there's a million. Thinning of the cortex, reduced immune cells in the brain, and it changes the hippocampus. 80% of the women that take it are depressed. Causes estrogen dominance, and it makes women pick the wrong men.
Yeah, there's plenty of examples of this where a woman gets married with a man. She gets off birth control to have kids and then no longer wants to be with that man.
Isn't that interesting? So why does it make you pick the wrong man? Well, when you're taking birth control, your body thinks it's pregnant all the time. And when you think your body's pregnant all the time, you tend to pick men who are more like your brothers and your fathers. The ones that you know no matter what, they have to take care of you.
That's interesting. Something about that doesn't seem right, but let's see what she has to say.
When you aren't on birth control, you pick the sexy alpha man because you want the strongest male so that your genes become stronger. When you're on birth control, you're picking the ones that are like your brother, and it ends up in divorce. But you can't say it causes brain damage. If it causes brain damage, nobody's going to take it.
It'd be really bad for Big Pharma, wouldn't it? Not to mention the countless stories of women who have come off of birth control and their periods are completely in disarray for years afterwards. It also does terrible things to your sex drive. So it really makes you wonder, is this a part of a larger agenda to sterilize us, to depopulate us? I'm just asking a question here. It's not like I've shown you any other reels that have supported that theory.
People thought these walls were once part of the Great Wall of China, but instead they ended up belonging to a 4,000-year-old city that is changing Chinese history. Welcome to episode 53 of Ancient Site Sunday. I'm Raven, an archaeologist, followed to never miss a weekly adventure. Today we're visiting the Neolithic fortress city of Shirmao. Shirmao is the largest known Neolithic settlement in China and dates to around 2200 BCE. The site spans around 400 hectares, and excavations at the site have so far uncovered over 6 miles of protective walls that were 8 feet thick, an inner sanctum decorated in painted murals, and a 230-foot-high pyramid. This pyramid originally had 20 tiers and was built on a hill for defensive purposes. Fun fact, it's about half the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza and was built around the same time, but the one at Shirmao has a base that is 4 times larger, and the elites of this settlement lived on the top tier, which had a 20-acre palatial complex on it with its own water reservoir, workshops, and probably ritual temples. Even Shirmao's stone walls were impressive and had thousands of pieces of black and green jade wedged into them to ward off evil. This amount of jade is crazy because the nearest source is over 1,000 miles away, meaning they would have had to have had a vast trading network in place to import such large quantities. Shirmao also produced extraordinary stone carvings unlike anything previously found from this period in China. There are snakes, monsters, human faces, and other hybrid creatures decorating the walls and gateways that are amazingly innovative and unique. The defensive system, though, is what really keeps me up at night. There were gates flanked by towers, bastions, and even a structure that forced attackers into an area where the defenders could pummel them from 3 sides, which is a design that later became a staple of Chinese defensive architecture. One shocking discovery at the East Gate was evidence of human sacrifice, with 80 human skulls found over 6 pits. This was possibly done while the foundations of the walls were being constructed, and almost all of the victims were young girls and might have been prisoners from a rival group. All this really makes you wonder what exactly was going on 4,300 years ago that would have required this level of defense and sacrifice. Shirmao was abandoned after 500 years, and we don't know exactly why as of yet, but it's thought that climate change probably played an important part. Nevertheless, as more comes out of the ground, we are no doubt going to be learning so much that will keep challenging our understanding of the earliest period of Chinese civilization.
Check this out. In the year 2026, people are starting to figure out that everything is a double meaning. And these big companies like BlackRock that owns Pfizer that's giving out all these vaccines has to put in a double meaning to everything. And what do we see here? Lucifer. And today the entire internet is freaking out because they just found out that if a employee at Pfizer gives out a million vaccines, they get this award, which is the Eye of Horus around the sun, the cornea of the sun, symbolizing that they see everything and they know everything that's going on. Does that mean that they are actually putting in like nanobots into the vaccines, which are keeping track of every single person in the world, so they know where you are at all times? They can use a satellite or we know satellites aren't actually out there, but they're like have a balloon on them and they're keeping track of everyone. You guys don't know, but these people, you're like, oh, it's the Freemasons. They're the bad guys. They're the ones they're using the all-seeing eye. But those are there's 2 different Freemasons. There's the real ones, there's the fake ones. And the real ones know that the all-seeing eye actually symbolizing the pituitary gland and the pineal gland in the center of the brain, which acts as the third eye. You can see more with it. And then the ancient Egyptians knew that. That's why they call it the Eye of Horus. But the bad guys who try to control everybody, they just see it as the all-seeing eye, where you can keep track of everyone because everything is physical for them. They have to keep track of what everybody is doing in the entire world because they need to know what they're up to so that they don't fight back. So that is probably the real reason why They get this award because they know that they're keeping track of every single person who gets these vaccines, and they know what is put inside of them and how they can damage them.
Even more countries are turning completely red. And remember, the footage you're seeing, 0 filters on it. This footage, for example, is from the Greek island of Crete, where the visibility has got so poor that flights have had to be rerouted. And the same goes for several North African countries like Libya, and it's moving towards others like Egypt too. So, what the hell is going on? Well, similar to what we saw in Australia over the weekend, an intense storm has blown through North Africa's Sahara, and it blows all of this red sand into the atmosphere, which clouds the sun and creates this real-life red tint. And so while it feels like a fitting time for the apocalypse, it's not yet.
We have a new color added into your atmosphere. All right, folks. Thank you for staying until the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hype. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss my next video. Once again, thank you. Have a wonderful day. God bless.